For my field reflection this week, the students were working on addition and subtraction. The teacher handed out worksheets and they worked on them. But on the board, she put a subtraction problem that they had to work it out in their journal. Um, and then the teacher, they also worked on representation activities and data collection. Um, she would give, she gave each student a card that had a number in it, and she had a number line on the board, and they were tallying up what number each student had and how many had three, how many had two, how many ones. Um, so they worked on that, which is data collection. Um, for this, the cognitive demand was memorization and making connections. Um, and they had to memorize who had one number, and they had to connect it to um, putting it up on the board, and it had to match, and they had to count who had what, how many students had how many of whatever number their little card had. Um, some of the manipulatives that were in the classroom, after speaking to the teacher, she told me that they use tools like place value charts, 100 charts, and base 10 blocks when needed. I also use some like foam dice to make up numbers, or to make up numbers that add up to 7 or 10, um, whatever the choice number was. Also, I asked her which curriculum she used, and she told me she used the Magnolia ISD curriculum. And so all of this, I think, what I took away from this is they were using memorization, which I don't think supports long-term learning. In my mentor's class, it was more focused on students, and they weren't really giving a reasoning. So for me, I think I would have more explanation on what they were working on, or when she called on them, um, to give more of an explanation other than, oh well, this is just the answer. Um, maybe decide more activities for representation, because after that they would go to their little Chromebooks and just work on math games. Um, and I think they weren't really reasoning or grasping what was being taught. And this was just on the lesson with tallying and representation, because she would keep mentioning represent. What are we representing? And if she could have, talked more about it, I think they would have understood a little more what they were looking for. So in this worksheet, I did have to help a few students. They weren't understanding, and this one was a representation word problem where Susie had 4 computers. Each computer meant 4 hours. How many more did she have than Charlie? Charlie had twice as many computers, and they weren't grasping how many more computers he had. So I think I would discuss or go a little more into that when I'm teaching. Um, give more examples, have them talk about it, and discuss what each computer represents, how to add it, how to just go more into detail with them. That way they're more engaged, and they can have these discussions with one another, explaining to each other with a partner. That way they can be prepared for later work. And so on Wednesday mornings, which is when we go, the math department holds their meeting, and they go over a TEK. So they were going over a TEK for Unit 3, which is going to be after the fall break. what they're going to be working on. And they went over the teak, they went over the verb, and then assessments that they would do. So they were doing like weekly tests to see where the students would be. And she also does, when she was in front of the class, she used the TEKS language. So today we're going to work on, and the objective is to do this, she explained it to them. And she did use language, as far as for the lesson, when the lesson started. It was brief, but she did include it in there.